Welcome to LabTech Software, Concepts and Fundamentals for Onboarding, Module 4, Additional Configuration Information. This is Module 4 of a 5-part series for onboarding training. Module 4 includes the following topics: Workstation Control Center installation, Web access, Heads-up display, Reports scheduling, Management reports, Report branding. Welcome to the LabTech training how-to video about how to install the LabTech Control Center on a workstation. Many LabTech users or technicians will choose to install the Control Center locally on their own workstation so they can access LabTech locally rather than having to remote to or physically go to the LabTech server directly. In this lesson, we will cover how to install the Control Center locally and log in. First step necessary to install the Control Center locally will be to map an L drive on your workstation to the LT share on the LabTech server. Here I am in Windows Explorer. I will click Map Network Drive. LabTech is looking for the letter L, so you will definitely want to choose L for the drive letter. I have specified a fully qualified domain name for my server. In your case, you may choose to use IP address or the fully qualified domain name of your LabTech server. And then the share name of the LT share is always LT share by default. For the purposes of this example, having the L drive reconnect automatically at logon will ensure L drive presence, which is something that the Control Center relies upon for certain functions within LabTech. I will click on Finish to map this drive. As you can see, I am being asked for credentials. Now here I am on the L drive, mapped locally to the LT share on the LabTech server, and I will double click on the WKS install directory, and I'm simply going to run control center installer.exe. As I'm running a machine with Windows 7, it's asking me for UAC access, and I will click Yes. And now LabTech Control Center is being installed on my workstation. After the Control Center is finished installing, it's going to install the MySQL ODBC connector, and I will click Next to proceed with that. The Control Center has already been installed previously on my workstation, so the default selection is set to Modify. If you have never installed the LabTech Control Center on your workstation, the default selection at the top of this list will be set to Typical. In either case, whether the default selection is set to Modify or Typical, it is recommended to leave that setting selected and click on Next. I will click Next here to accept the default install and left click to install. The MySQL ODBC connector has been successfully installed on my workstation now. Here we have the end user licensing agreement for the Crystal Reports component of the LabTech Control Center installation. Review the agreement and click Accept if you do accept the terms. And now files are being downloaded for the Control Center setup. Files have been downloaded successfully. Now Crystal Reports is being installed. Now the Control Center is being installed. After the installation is complete, the LabTech Client Setup Wizard is launched. Click Next to proceed. Where do we want to install the Control Center? It's fine to accept the default installation path, or you can specify one of your choosing and click Next. Now we're ready to install. Here the Control Center has been successfully installed. Let's click Close. After the installation is complete, the Control Center login screen comes up. It is important to remember at this point that when logging into LabTech, the username is also case sensitive, not just the password. The database will always be called LabTech, and now we're ready to attempt to log in. So long as the user you are trying to log in with has their user profile specified to enable the HTTP tunnel, we can log in with http:// followed by the fully qualified domain name of the LabTech server. That will use port 80, and I will attempt to log in now. And the login was successful. This concludes how to install the LabTech Control Center on a workstation. Welcome to LabTech Web Access Training. The Web Control Center contains agent install files to download, as well as similar functionality in the Control Center application. To be able to access the Web Control Center, a user must be granted web access. Let's look at that now. Left-click to expand admin in the navigation tree. Left-click to expand users. Double-click on a user to edit them. On the Permissions tab, see here Allow Web Access. Let's put a check in that box and save it. Here we have a pop-up notification that we will be forced to restart the Control Center after making these changes. I'm now logging back into my Control Center. Now when we go back to the Permissions tab of that user, we can see it has web access, and we are ready to try to log into the Web Control Center. The address of the Control Center is going to be your fully qualified domain name for your LabTech server. In this case, my server does not have a fully qualified domain name, so I'll be using the IP address. Followed by LabTech. That will take you to the Web Control Center login page. Here we're going to log into the same credentials we used to log in to the Control Center application. Once again, remember that the username is case sensitive, as is the password. It is not recommended to actually run the installer from this page. Rather, you're going to want to save it and run it locally. In my case, I'll right-click on it and save the link accordingly. Aside from agent installer files, there is a lot of functionality in the Web Control Center that you will normally see in the Control Center application. After we've downloaded the agent installer file and we're ready to leave the Web Control Center, under Quick Links we click on the drop-down and click on Log Out. That concludes LabTech Web Access Training. Welcome to LabTech Heads-Up Display Training. The heads-up display is a new feature to LabTech. It allows you to view many different things about the status of items in LabTech at a glance. In the Control Center, left-click on Heads-Up Display in the menu bar. You can see we have options to view built-in displays or add a new one. Let's take a look at our built-in knock display. Here you can see any offline agents, tickets associated with the clients, new tickets, as well as any clients that have machines in an alert status for one of these internal monitors listed across the top. Here in the toolbar within the display, we can reload it. We could save it if we make changes to it. We can change the configuration, including the name, the title, the layout, including how many windows are shown in which configuration, or the icon. We also have other options specific to this HUD, such as allowing users to customize it, saving data view customizations. We could show this HUD in the toolbar in the Control Center. We can set permissions to this HUD and even delete it. We will once again left-click on Heads Up to Display to create a new Heads Up display. Here in this new HUD, we can start by configuring it, and we'll choose the layout. Then we can configure what items we want to appear in which pane. Go ahead and add an item here. Here I'm going to add a data view for critical alerts. In this right-hand pane, I'll add a sensor panel. And in the bottom pane, I'll add client health. I've made some changes here. So now I'll go over to Options. And I'm going to choose to show in the toolbar in the Control Center. And I'm going to save this HUD. I'll close this. Notice now that the toolbar in the Control Center has an additional entry. And I can simply click on that HUD. And that's a shortcut to the new HUD I just created. HUDs are a very powerful tool that will allow you to customize information you need to see at a glance and have access to it immediately. This concludes LabTech Heads-Up Display training. Welcome to LabTech Reports training. There are many built-in reports within LabTech that can provide very useful information on things such as client status, machines that are offline, machines that need to be patched, as well as summary reports such as our management report. In this lesson, we will look at how to run reports as well as schedule and email reports. Here in the Control Center, there are a number of different ways to run a report. One of the most common would be to run a management report on a client. To do that, here in the navigation tree, left-click to expand clients. Right-click on a client. Go to View Report. Here you can see very many sub-levels of reports that we have that come built into LabTech. And you can choose Client Report, Management. This report gives you useful information about machines at this client, service tickets and turnaround time, what kind of operating systems, and network health. This is the management report for this client. You can see that it includes information such as a breakdown of agents, showing how many servers, workstations, and devices are present, computer hotfix summary, disk space used, service tickets and turnaround time, as well as a summary of operating systems and the health of systems at this client. Once the report has been run, we have useful options such as printing the report or exporting it. Another way to run a report in LabTech is to go to Tools, Reporting, and Report Manager. Report Manager is going to have a similar tree of available reports that were shown when we right-clicked on the client in the navigation tree. So let's expand one of the categories by left-clicking, and we will click on one of the reports to run it. Once we click on that report, we can specify which client we want to run it against. And if I want, I can drive down to a specific location and even a specific computer. On the Advanced tab, we can filter the report for certain fields matching certain conditions. If we want, for the purposes of this exercise, we will leave this report in its default configuration. Here at the bottom of the screen we have an email report button that will bring up a standard email looking window where we can send the report to a desired recipient. And we have a schedule button. We'll left click to look at some of the schedule options now. We can customize when we want it to run. We can set it to run on a recurring basis. Once again, we can specify the client, and we can specify which contact we want this to get sent to. And here we have the ability to customize the subject and body of the email message. And I'll click on Create to save this. After we have scheduled the report, we can close out of the Report Manager window and go to one of our data views to find that scheduled report. We will left click on the Data Views button here in the lower toolbar. We'll go to Reports and Scheduled Reports. And here we can see that report that we just scheduled. This concludes LabTech Reports training. Welcome to LabTech Management Report training. The Management Report within LabTech contains useful information about hotfix installations, virus scanning, and system health for machines at a specific client. Let's take a look at how to run the report now. In the navigation tree, left-click to expand clients, right-click on a client, go to View Report, Client Reports, and left-click on Management. Additionally, any report can be run from within the Report Manager. Here we will left-click on Tools. Under Reporting, left-click on Report Manager. Once again, the Management Report is a client report, so we will left-click to expand Client Reports, and then left-click on Management. Here we are in the parameter screen for the Management Report. In the drop-down for Client, I will specify the client I want to see, and left-click on Print Preview. What this gives me is an overall health report for this client. I can see how many of each type of machine I have, the network health. This tells me here that the health check scripts are currently not running on this client. We have information about operating systems on our machines, as well as service request status, as well as statistics about tickets that this partner has opened, as well as statistics about tickets that have been entered into LabTech for this client. And over here back on the left-hand side, we have a computer hotfix summary, where we can see that this client is missing 6 patches, as well as some server disk space used. Within the report across the top of the screen, we can refresh, change the view. We use these arrows to scroll to the next pages within the report. Here on the last page, you can see a legend to describe the icons and give a little bit of information about what you're going to see within the report. And then we have built-in buttons in the toolbar to print or email the report, as well as to send it to Word, Excel, or Adobe. This concludes LabTech Management Report training. Welcome to LabTech Training Report Branding. Reports within LabTech all include the LabTech logo by default. In this lesson, we will demonstrate how to customize that logo to suit your needs. First, here in the Control Center, let's take a look at how the logo looks out of the box. I'm going to left-click on Tools and go to Reporting and left-click on Report Manager. I will simply select a report to run from the tree. Notice how it has the LabTech logo in the upper left. As indicated, that is the default configuration out of the box. I will now show you where you can change that on the LabTech server. On the LabTech server, open up Windows Explorer and browse to the LT Share. In the LT Share, click on the Reports directory. The logo file LabTech is using is right in that Reports directory, and it's called Logo. It's got a PNG extension. I'll rename this file. And then I'll take this other one that I already had in the directory, prepared for this example, and name it Logo. Now when I run a report, the report should pick up that new logo file. And here you can see the new logo that I inserted in that logo.png file on the LT share. This concludes LabTech Report Branding training. This concludes Module 4 in the Onboarding Series training. Additional modules will follow, covering the topics listed below.